So, the second build is none other than Hand of Wisdom and Action. Now, I gotta say, when you stack these claws and you do a build around them, the build is absolutely ridiculous. There's virtually no weakness. It's basically the master of all. It does everything really, really well, and it's got great survivability. It's got great damage. It's got great movement. It's got great clear speed. It's really just good for everything. A lot of builds do it as a spectral throw, and I gotta say I don't really like spectral throw. I mean, I get it. You throw your little weenie spectral claws in one direction and you whirl through packs, and then it'll cut through them as they return to you. But why not just go the OP single target boss destroyer in Blade Flurry? I mean, it's a new ability. It's obviously overpowered. And this build I wanted to do Shapers, so I wanted to have as much single target damage as I could possibly have. A lot of builds, when they build HoWA, which is what this build is called now, they go and they get these projectile nodes, and they get these efficient accuracy nodes. So what they do is they convert all these dex nodes that they pass through, and they get the increased accuracy. So those are the pluses of going through this side, and you get the maximum frenzy charges. But I thought if you go a traditional Whispering Ice build, where you just get as many intellect nodes as possible, and then you use brute force solutions on your way to getting unwavering stance, you'll get a lot more int that way from the tree. And so I did a little bit of math, and I planned it on the tree. And if I path this way, and I go, the typical spectral throw route, you don't really get these nodes because they're inefficient. So you don't really convert that much strength here. So I found that if you path over this way, it's far more efficient to get an unwavering stance on this side, and you get a lot of int. So I ended up getting 1100 int, and I don't have int on my helm, my chest, or my gloves. Unfortunately, I didn't have much accuracy. I could have gotten these, but I didn't want to, so I just opted to get a lot of accuracy on helm and gloves. At this point, people started to catch on to this type of gear, so they started to overcharge for int on these pieces of gear. So I ended up just opting for it on rings, boots, and a nice amulet. So instead of buying Astramentus, which also went up in price, I just bought this, and this actually gives more ES than Astramentus would for the cost of a little bit of int, and that int is replaced by the added lightning damage. So this is just a little bit better than Astramentus in terms of survivability. Also pathing this way allows you to get just very efficient energy shield nodes, and with the stat points you're able to get about 1k more ES than if you were to go this way. You actually don't lose that much damage, because now that you can path up to here and use this Fertile Mind, you get this attack speed, and you get some attack speed here and melee damage. So you're able to basically offset the damage that you lose via the frenzy charges. Really, the only damage that you lose is this. Forces of Nature is so good. The damage penetration really is what makes it shine against lightning resistant mobs. So really, this is what you lose. You do lose the more damage, but that's okay, because the increased int from the build offsets that, and it gives you more ES. And really what I wanted was a build that couldn't be one shot except by the Shaper Slam, which is very easily avoidable. So just to showcase the build, why not go to the nice and easy Dried Lake. So the way the build works is like a light switch. You just turn it on, you kill things, and you collect loot. And this build is so awesome because when you have phasing, you look like the Predator, and that's so cool. Like, ugh, what's not to like about looking like a Predator? So flask for the build, I went with a Basalt and an Onslaught Flask. The Onslaught Flask is because you know, it's just increased attack speed. Just without even activating Flask, I attack 7 times a second, and I do 11,000 average damage. That's with a 5-link. Once again, I wasn't able to 6-link. I did multiple of these. I ended up selling the other ones that I 5-linked. But basically, I didn't get a 6-link this league. I was pretty salty about that. So Whirling Blade's attack time is pretty good because you're dual wielding, so you get the attack speed bonus, and the claws are pretty fast themselves. And yeah, be able to essentially do this to every map in the game, no problem. As you can see, Elemental Reflect, a single Elemental Reflect is not a problem. I just didn't Elemental Reflect mob just now. Elemental Reflect map is doable, but you need to switch out your Wrath for Purity of Lightning, and then you probably want to roll a Topaz Flask to make it extra safe. It's inefficient though, because you kind of just want to face roll everything. That's what this build is really made to do. So just skip Elemental Reflect maps unless they're like you're corrupted. That's what I did a couple times when I had to run a corrupted map for completion. You know, I did that, but it's not really needed. So continuing with the showcase, go to the hideout. So some other things, I had my cast on damage taken set up in Field of Vortex just for nice cool effect and chill, and my Orb of Storm. So this was kind of important because it gives you conductivity on the boss, which is really nice for resistant bosses, and Culling Strike. So if you got to call the Shaper or that tier 16 boss, that 10% damage is actually pretty damn good. So that's what I use that for. This is just ridiculous. For bosses, you switch to Conk Effect. In my hideout, it does 10k average damage when I have all frenzy charges up, and my flask up, it does I think 20k average damage. So basically it absolutely annihilates everything in seconds. And the Shaper boss fight is mostly a mechanics thing, but most of those mechanics can pretty much be ignored just by standing in his face and channeling Blade Flurry and releasing it. In the third phase, what you do have to mind is you can't face tank the orbs from the second illusion that he summons. So you do have to do a little dodging in the last phase, and obviously orb management is always a thing. So when he summons those black hole things that cover the ground in, you know, black holes, you obviously want to manage those properly, otherwise you could screw yourself in one of the Xana bullet hell phases, and then you're not going to have fun. But I did a Shaper run with 1 death on this character, and it was my first time doing it on an attack type character, so I think that that's exceptional. And this build just really saved the league for me. I was feeling really burnt out on Explosive Arrow. I didn't play it, this build for too long. I would say that 2 solid days were played on this character. And it was just one of those things where just how powerful this build was just carried it through everything that it needed to do. So this build also is able to do the Uber Lab really easily. I mean, traps are always annoying, but you can just whirl through most things. And it really trivializes anything that Azaro can throw at you. He can have any assortment of weapons, charge disruptors. He basically can't one-shot you unless he gets like a lucky crit on like full charge disruptors. So you essentially just equip Concentrated Effect and you go to town. So I did about 7 Uber Lab runs, and my first piece of luck was on this character, and I got a perfect Azaro's Turmoil, which is the fire damage, cold damage jewel. I got a perfect one. I was able to sell that for 2.5 exalts. I was dying for currency, and that was essentially when I had about 66 Chayula fragments, and from there I was able to buy the rest, and I did a HoWA run on this character as well. That was completely deathless. I beat the timer very easily, and HoWA, you just dodged the crazy cyclone that he does, and you're essentially able to face tank him as well. This build face tanks anything that's not a one-shot. And all of the items were under 15C except for this. I paid 15C and then the cost to socket it and link it. Everything else, this was, I want to say 4. These each were about 10. I think this guy didn't know how to price it because he sold me a ridiculous thing for under 10. This was, I want to say 8 chaos. This one was a little more expensive. This one was about 15 because I guess the guy liked the move speed on it. These claws were virtually nothing. I just had some Hand of Thought and Motions lying around, and I blessed them with Eshes, and I got pretty good rolls. So I just used them. They're not even perfect. There should be 12 int. 4% int is pretty significant when you're stacking int on this build. I didn't even do that. I really wanted it to be as budget as possible. And then the jewels are just conversion jewels. There are a few chaos each. And then I went for attack speed, area damage on the other ones. I needed a little bit of elemental resist to overcap, but otherwise it was easy. So that's the basic 2 builds that I did, and I was able to get all 36 challenges. So now to discuss a little bit about the challenges. This thing is crap. This is such BS. This shouldn't be in the game. I did, I want to say almost 3K map tiers. Yeah, 3K map tiers. I know there have been people on Reddit that have complained that they did 10,000 map tiers, and they never saw that strongbox. Other ones that are BS, I don't like the open Parandis coffers. The reason for this is because even though Parandis is a good mod, it's a very good mod, I felt insulted by it because in standard I have something like 35,000 Parandis coins that I've farmed up from Parandis League and from just doing Parandis maps, and I still haven't seen a GG Kadiro deal. So it would have just been really annoying and frustrating to not have enough Parandis coins, or to have to like scratch my head and figure out how to buy Parandis coins for that bro deal from Kadiro in this league. So I just decided I'm not doing this under any, like, if I had to pay to just open the coffers, I would have done that. But there was no way I was going to Parandis my maps and then have something like a headhunter show up and not be able to buy it. I'm going to keep doing Parandis on standard, and one day he'll sell me that Skyforce or headhunter, and I'll be prepared with thousands of coins. I obviously didn't do the map tiers because I just can't stomach playing for that long. And I didn't do the endgame grinds because that's also really expensive. The other ones that were kind of expensive were obviously the HoWA breach. Honestly, I didn't like the frequency with which you got the others. Like, these are nice. You get these pretty often. You get everything pretty cool. And you obviously get very powerful uniques out of it. I mean, this shield is absolutely absurd. This neck piece, absolutely absurd. This is like the best unique weapon in the game, or one of the best. And it's so cheap. So I can't complain about breach at all. Like, you can really just get really awesome things. But HoWA breaches can suck it. It's so expensive, and I know that the return is great, but it's not even guaranteed. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I was lucky and I got a blessing of HoWA, and I was able to sell it for, I think, like 180 chaos or something exorbitant. But it would have just been so soul crushing to run a HoWA and get nothing out of it. I was hoping to get either an ID or a blessing. I got a blessing, so I was happy. I had to pay for the what's it called? The breach unique. So I ended up paying 50 chaos. I was just, it was one of the last challenges that I needed, so I was like, at this point I'll pay up to an Exalt. So I ended up paying 50 chaos to identify the green dream, um, and then that was like 35, and then what was my 36th? I think the very last one that I did was the redeemed divination cards. So I had most of them already done from all the mapping that I had done. 10, I just did the one that gives you the rarity ring, so that cost me a bit. 9, I had already completed. 12, I had run a lot of vault maps, and I knew this ahead of time that vault dropped hoarder. So I just had like 6 or 7 hoarder cards, and then I bought the rest. So I ended up, even though they were overpriced, I ended up with like a 25C profit. And then the most expensive were the 11s. So the 11s, you only get them, the most efficient ones are Dapper Prodigy. So I ended up running a lot of Crematorium, which was annoying. Crematorium sucks. And I ended up getting this crappy 6-link that still hasn't sold. I constantly lower the price, but nobody wants this. Kind of depressing. But with the rest of the currency, I decided to make one last build, and this is kind of a, meme, ridiculous build that people are doing nowadays. But yeah, on to the next one.